What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college football. And today we're bringing out the big guns. We have the Saturday main slate. We're going to go through 10 games. Before we get started, if you have any feedback, please let me know in the comment section. If you want to support, like the video, subscribe. Both of those things are free to do, and it helps us a ton. Thank you if you've done that. Last thing, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. We will be breaking down these games from all angles. That means sides and totals. But it's the Saturday slate. We have some elite games for week one. That starts with Texas versus Ohio State. We have the defending national champion, two current frontrunners for this year's national championship. Right now, the spread is 1.5 points in favor of the home team, Ohio State. The total is 47.5. As you can imagine, there's a lot of change with both of these teams. That is what happens when you are a perennial powerhouse. Coaching, same for Texas. Both coordinators are back. Sark is back. Ryan Day has to replace both of his coordinators. Brian Hartline gets the promotion. And that's after, of course, they lose their OC to the NFL. And then Matt Patricia, he's hired as DC after they lose their DC to Penn State. As far as injuries go, Emmett Mosley, the wide receiver, is supposed to be limited for Texas. They lost Andre Kojo for the year on the offensive line. He was a depth piece. But let's start with the Texas offense and what they're replacing and how they match up against Ohio State's defense. You move to Arch Manning. Most are viewing this as an upgrade immediately over Quinn Ewers. I tend to do the same. One, because Quinn Ewers was hurt last year, and you could tell. And second, Arch has a little more mobility than Ewers, even if he has taken a lot of sacks to this point in his career. He's up at a 26% pressure to sack ratio. Most of that I'm writing off just on the small sample. He got thrown into the fire against some good opponents. But everything looks solid efficiency-wise when you see Arch coming in on the small sample. Over 10 yards per attempt, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks. I think he'll be solid. He does have good weapons as well. Trey Wisner's back after 1,000 yards rushing last year and 44 catches. Very good pass-catching back. They do lose Jaden Blue, but CJ Baxter's back after the ACL tear. They've got great RBs. Wide receivers still loaded, even though you lose players like Matthew Golden. Ryan Wingo's back. DeAndre Moore's back. Both of them flashed. They bring in 5-star Khalik Lockett. Emmett Mosley, while limited, comes in from Stanford. Even tight end Jack Andres is coming in from Cal. So you have great weapons. My biggest concern on offense is the O-line. They were awesome last year. They're only returning guard DJ Campbell. If you look at the O-line rating on the screen, you're going to see pass blocking on the left, run blocking on the right. You have to replace Calvin Banks. That's going to be hard. You have no transfers coming in, which is okay. They have elite recruits. I think you're probably going to start some combination of Trevor Gooseby, Brandon Baker, the former 5-star, Cole Hudson, and then the other guard position is a battle. I'm not sure who will win that, but both 4-stars. They're unproven. My only concern is the depth a little bit here. If they're tested at any point this year, they're not super deep, and they're all brand new. And you're facing Ohio State. For everything Ohio State lost, which is a ton, they are still returning a lot of production because they were just slaughtering teams last year. So they have more snaps back than you might think. On the edge, Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry both played 230. Bo Atkinson comes in from North Carolina. Inside, Caden McDonald and 5-star Edric Houston both played about 150. In the linebacker room, you have stud Sonny Styles back, who was a quality player, and he'll be joined by a rotational piece in Arvell Reese. And then the defensive backfield, they have the best safety in the country in Caleb Downs. Davison Igbinosun is back, as well as Jermaine Matthews. And then everyone on the 2 deep is at least a 4-star. A lot of them are 5-stars. I think the defense takes a slight step back, but I'm not sure how much that is. Yeah, replacing Sawyer, Hamilton, Timaloau, and Williams on the inside is going to be very difficult. But I think this team probably only takes a slight step back. And then when you consider the Texas potential step back on the O-line, this could be more of a wash. On the Ohio State side, you have Julian Sayin taking over. Not quite the same caliber recruit as Quinn Ewers, but he's still a 5-star. Not the most mobile. But he's also working with elite weapons. James Peoples is a highly recruited 4-star. CJ Donaldson comes in from West Virginia. That's your tandem at running back. You have the best wide receiver in the country in Jeremiah Smith. complemented by Carnell Tate and a slew of 5 stars, Brandon Enos, Mylan Graham, you name it. Plus Max Clare upgrades tight end from Purdue. I think the Ohio State offensive line is a question. They did get some experience because of all the injuries last year, so that helps. They have 3 players on the interior with experience. But my real question is, what does the tackle position look like? Luke Montgomery might have to play one of those. He only had 261 snaps. And then you have a battle at the other one between Ethan Onyanwa from Rice and Phillip Daniels from Minnesota. It's a similar concern to Texas. Not sure how great the O-line is going to be, but it's full of 4- and 5-star recruits. And this skill position group is going to be going up against a Texas defense that also loses a lot, especially up front. But they have 5-star Colin Simmons back on the edge. He had a good season. Trey Moore and Ethan Burke are definitely more proven than what Ohio State has in the edge. Inside is going to be a complete transfer job. This is my biggest concern with Cole Brever, Travis Shaw, and Hiro Kanu coming in as a complete transfer job. But they also have some 5 stars like Justice Terry. The D-line should be okay. Linebacker, you have 1 stud in Anthony Hill, 1 average player in Leona Leafau. Brad Spence comes in. Texas has 3 elite defensive backs in Malik Muhammad, Jelani McDonald, and Michael Tafai. Derek Williams also back from injury. So I think your defense is still pretty solid here. Based on the depth, we still have a slight edge to Ohio State. And with home field, elite recruits across the board, we have a slight edge Ohio State. I know Texas has been taking a lot of money in the market right now, which is why I haven't played anything yet. I don't know where this closes. I will likely play something on Ohio State. I can't exactly say what. If you force me to pick something on the total, it would be under. But with the home field, returning national championships, I think the angle most people are talking about is just that hangover. We're not really in the business of buying narratives like that. On field, Ohio State has a little more talent than Texas currently. With both teams being unproven, that is where we will side. Game 2, interesting contest. We have Syracuse taking on Tennessee as a 14-point underdog. Total in the game is 48 points. Neither team has any real coaching changes. Fran Brown's back, Josh Heupel's back, coordinators all back. Only main injury is Jermon McCoy for Tennessee. Their stud corner tore his ACL late. He's not going to play in this game and likely for a while. On offense, you have Tennessee moving to Joey Aguilar, who is just flat out a downgrade from Nico Iamaleava. Regardless of what you want to say about Iamaleava, this is worse. He also has a highly questionable group of skill position players. Their rock, Dylan Sampson, is gone. So you turn to 2 unproven running backs, maybe 3. I'm not sure who plays between Bishop, Lewis, or Star Thomas, the transfer from Duke. But then you also lose basically every one of your receivers. Chris Brazel's back after a disappointing year. We'll see if he can sort of regain form. Level of competition's real. He was from Tulane originally, and going to the SEC is just not easy. What they're really relying on are their 5-star and 4-star receivers, Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley. There's basically no depth behind them. And they've both been banged up so far in camp. It's at least concerning to me. And then the O-line lost 6 of their top 7. The only player back is Lance Hurd, who was awful. So you go to Sam Pendleton, Wendell Moe. Those are your 2 transfers. You do have some elite recruits on the 2D, but all unproven. So this O-line is also a question to me. Basically, the offensive infrastructure for Tennessee's degraded year over year, basically the last 2 years. This year, not too much fault of their own. The only thing is Syracuse's defense was 91st. I'm not sure they're really going to be able to provide any resistance. Your only legitimate contributor on the edge is David Reese from Cal. Interior has just a bunch of rotational players. Tennessee can probably run the ball even with that offensive line. Linebackers should be okay. McDonald and Sparrow are back. The defensive backfield has Deuce Chestnut and Devin Grant. It's just not enough. So I understand why you were looking at a 14-point spread. I'm not sure I really buy it. You know, like Tennessee and Syracuse both want to play fast. This could be ugly fast with a lot of mistakes. But honestly, I do think Tennessee has success with this offense against Syracuse's non-existent defense. On the other side, Syracuse is changing a ton. You lose your QB. You're now moving to Steve Angeli, who came over after the spring. He's flashed in spots, but has never played a full-time role yet, so we'll see what we get. Running back room, you're turning to a combination of Will Nixon and Yassine Willis, both unproven. Wide receiver, Jackson Meeks and Trevor Pena vacate about 2,000 yards. So you go out and you bring in 5-star Jonte Cook. He's had some problems off the field, but he has flashed in camp. Daryl Gill and Umari Hatcher are sort of uninspiring returning incumbents. Justice Ross Simmons and 4-star Emmanuel Ross are your sort of unproven ceiling raisers for the team. And then you just lose Oronde Gadsden. So Dan Villari is a very different tight end. This unit's going to take a step back. It's also going to look different. So I hesitate to say a major step back. I trust this coaching staff. We'll see what they can do. But the O-line for this unit, they lose 4 of their top 6. They were pretty good last year. Joe Cruz is hurt as well, so that hurts. You have basically one guy back because of that. They're going to come down to transfers. I mean, Nikhil Bertrand, Cam Pringle, TJ Ferguson, Austin Collins, and Zach Rice are all from good programs, all P4. They all have some concern coming in here. I think they're going to be slightly above average, but a lot needs to gel against Tennessee, whose strength is up front. I mean, this team, they're returning Joshua Josephs, a lot of players inside, Jackson Moy, Bryson Easton. I won't name them all. They have a good defensive line, even losing an NFL draft pick in James Pierce. Linebackers a little concerning. Basically, the back seven's the big concern. I don't know. Boo Carter is back from whatever that suspension was. Ricky Gibson's okay. Jalen McMurray's okay. But again, you're losing your number 1 lockdown corner, Jermod McCoy. I think this is a bit dicey. Right now, Tennessee minus 14 is a bit too rich for me. I just missed the opening number. We have Tennessee favored by a decent amount in this game, but right now the 14 points is just too much. It's a complete Syracuse or pass for me. I don't want to take this because we don't show a lot of value in it, but right now we're getting dangerously close to some Syracuse positions. Honestly, if you want to take something, it could be an over in this game. I have questions with both of the offenses, but we know both teams want to play fairly fast. Tennessee was 22nd in pace of play last year. Syracuse was more on average, but they're a pass-friendly offense. I'm not sure what efficiency is going to look like, but you could see the pace of play generate a lot of offense in this game. Game 3, Alabama versus Florida State. This is one of my favorites on the board. Alabama's a 13.5-point favorite. Florida State, they're dogs at home. The total's 50.5. The only coordinator change for Alabama is Ryan Grubb taking over OC duties after he failed in the NFL, but he has a long history with DeBoer. Florida State, Mike Norvell cleaned house after the 2-10 season. Gus Malzahn comes in as OC, previously with UCF. Tony White comes in as DC, formerly with Nebraska. Both of them were highly successful in their roles. Alabama expecting them to be a little pass heavier with the change in OC, moving QBs. Jam Miller's the only injury to really mention here. Jaden Roberts at guard has a concussion. I think he's going to play, but we'll see there. For Florida State, they're going to be way run heavier. Last year, 52.5% pass. Gus Malzahn runs that option offense with a running quarterback. That's what they're designed to do. They're also probably going to play fast. That's just another function of the offense. Injuries for Florida State. Loane McCoy is out, as well as Kevin Wynn on the defensive line. So for personnel, let's start with Alabama. Actually, you know what? We're going to start with Florida State. They have more change. So they have the coordinator changes. The offense typically under Malzahn has worked best with a dual threat quarterback. Generally bigger ones. Think like John Rice Plumlee. They get Tom Castellanos from Boston College. He's 5'9", 196. That's the first concern. He got benched last year. That's more of a function of Bill O'Brien's offense. Castellanos just not being a good fit. But there's still concerns here. Last year, he got hurt and his rushing dropped precipitously. If that happens at all, this team is cooked. He also has a pressure to sack ratio of 27%. That's 18 sacks taken, and he didn't play the whole year. That's another huge concern. Also, he's a much better runner than thrower, so 7 turnover-worthy plays to 6 big-time throws. I'm just not sure if Castellanos is capable of operating an offense at this level. He was middle at best with Boston College. And then you look at his weapons. It looks like they're going to start Roydell Williams at running back. I don't know what to make of him. Pretty average every time we've seen him. I sort of thought the breath of fresh air was going to be Gavin Sawchuk from Oklahoma or Usman Kroma from the high school ranks. He's a 4-star. But I don't know. I'm not confident they play the best running back right out of the gate. I will say their receivers are much better with Deuce Robinson, Square White, and Javen Boggs. They're 5-star. So we'll see. Randy Pittman also will help Landon Thomas at tight end. The weapons are better. I just don't buy the run game with these backs and with Castellanos being as small as he is and a limited thrower. The offensive line is another concern. They are using, I think, 5 transfers outside of maybe Richie Leonard, who got hurt last year. They're pretty solid transfers. Luke Petitbon from Wake Forest, Adrian Medley from UCF, Micah Pettis from Ole Miss. I'm still not sure this unit is anything better than average. Last year, they were below average. Like, is this group 60th or 30th? I'm putting my money on 60th. So a lot of offensive infrastructure problems for me. They're going to be facing arguably the best defense in the country. Alabama returns so much production. Edge rushers, LT Overton, Quay Rousseau, their depth is so good with like Keon Keeley and Yanze Pierre 5 stars. Their interior is fine. You got somehow Deontay Lawson back at linebacker. And then, I mean, last year their secondary was so young. They actually got great play out of Bray Hubbard and Keon Sabb. Corners, Cam Calhoun comes in to complement Zabian Brown, Damani Jackson. I mean, this defense is up there with Ohio State and Texas. They're going to need to pull out some stops if they're going to score on this unit. I think they probably get some, but man, this is a stifling defense. On the other side, Alabama turning to 5-star Ty Simpson. Haven't seen him a lot, but he is very mobile. We've seen that all the way back in high school. His running game is not anything inspiring with Richard Young, Daniel Hill, and some other lower level players like Traylon Washington from Louisiana. But the receivers are elite. You have Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. You also have pretty good skill position players around them. They bring in Isaiah Horton from Miami to fill out this unit. They might run more 4 and 5 pass catchers out there at a time, like wide receivers. That's kind of what Grubb has done. They don't have a great tight end room, so we'll see what they do there. But they're going to test this Florida State defense right out of the gate, and their offensive line is significantly better. Caden Proctor's back. Wilkie Formby's going to step in at right tackle. Your interior, outside of maybe a hurt Jaden Roberts, and again, I think he plays. It's elite, and not to mention, like, they brought in Cam Dewberry, so if Roberts misses, it's not the biggest deal. In Florida State's defense, they were 107th last year, full of underachievers. A lot of them are gone. The unit defensively is basically all transfers across the board, so they're good transfers. Jason Jenkins from Tennessee, Deontay McCray, Western Kentucky, Stephon Thompson, Nebraska. Secondary has KJ Kirkland and Shaheem Brown back. I think they're all fine, and they'll take a step forward. It's just, is it 70th or 30th? Honestly, we make the spread within 13.5 points. As you can tell, as I've talked through this, I'm terrified of betting against Alabama. I think this team has full warpath potential and national championship potential, and I do not know what Florida State is with all the change. I do not buy many of their changes. I think if you want to back them, it's solely on the basis of this team is vastly more talented than last year, and they upgraded both coordinators with Malzahn and Tony White. I can see that angle. If it gets to 14, I might play that angle, but right now I do not have a ton of interest in this game. You could maybe sell me on an over in the contest as well. We have it around 54 points. But again, Florida State's offense, all the change versus this defense for Alabama has me with a lot of pauses. Next up, we have LSU taking on Clemson. This is a 3.5 point spread in favor of Clemson, a 57.5 point total. Brian Kelly changed out all his coordinators last year. Still didn't get the result he wanted. So now they're going to run it back. Dabo Swinney changes DCs to Tom Allen. He comes over from Penn State. By all accounts, it's a good fit. So not expecting too many systemic changes for these teams. Both teams also seem pretty healthy too. As far as the offensive, defensive matchups, you've got 2 elite quarterbacks. Garrett Nussmeier is back for LSU. He was the 19th most efficient quarterback in the country last year. NFL arm, good size. The only real concern you have with him is he's a 0 on the ground and he had negative 38 rushing yards. That offensive line did not live up to expectations last year. They were not maximized, and now they're losing 4 starters, many of them in the NFL, including a top 5 NFL tackle in Will Campbell. The only players you return are DJ Chesser and Paul Mubenga. Both of them were atrocious last year, so if we don't get coaching development, that's a huge concern. Their incumbents, Tyree Adams is a former 4-star. Otherwise, you're relying on transfers. Braylon Moore from Virginia Tech, Josh Thompson from Northwestern. I think at best this unit's treading water, which is a big concern right away. Because Nussmeier is going to take some sacks and he's going to throw some interceptions. Unless he cleans that up, that's just what he's done. He does have amazing skill position players. So if he can create in the pocket, Caden Durham awesome breakout running back last year. Wide receivers probably improved on top of returning Aaron Anderson, Xavier Thomas, Chris Hilton, Kyle Parker, as well as tight ends like Trey Green. You add in transfers Nick Anderson from Oklahoma, Barian Brown from Kentucky. Both of them were awesome. You also get Bauer Sharp from Oklahoma at tight end. I mean, the only concern I have is just this offensive line holding up. And it's a huge concern because Clemson basically returns everyone on defense. They lose only Peyton Page in the defensive lineman room. They only lose Barrett Carter in linebacker room and RJ Mickens in the secondary. Replacements for them all. TJ Parker, he's on the short list of All-Americans on the edge. They bring in Will Help from Purdue to complement him. You have last year, a freshman linebacker in Sammy Brown with 80 tackles. Like, this guy could be an All-American. I think he steps up over Wade Woodaz immediately. The defensive back, Avion Terrell and Ashton Hampton, elite. You have replacements for all the guys you lost. There's another year moving forward with the talent too, projecting growth. This could be a stifling defense. I'm very excited to see this matchup, and the key to it is how LSU's offensive line performs, and I'm not super optimistic there. Conversely, Cade Klubnik is back. The reason I prefer Klubnik to Nussmeier outside of being at home is he runs. He provides something to you on the ground with 3.9 yards per carry. He finished as the 7th most efficient quarterback last year. Everything through the air is just fine. Big time throw to interception ratio is actually better for Cade Klubnik compared to Nussmeier. He actually had more efficiency and fewer turnover-worthy plays. So I rightfully think he deserves to be ahead of him. He also has elite skill position players. I'm excited to see Adam Randall at running back too. Normally, receivers don't convert to running back, but this guy's 235 pounds and 6'2". They also have Gideon Davis, the 4-star behind him. And then for all the weapons LSU has, Clemson is 5-star TJ Moore, 4-star Bryant Wesco, 4-star Antonio Williams. 2023's lead receiver, Tyler Brown, got hurt last year. He's back too. Tight end's probably the only concern, and you're turning to a 4-star in Olsen Pat Henry. The offensive line I'm a little less concerned with here just because they have 5 starters back. They were 69th in pass blocking last year and 71st, so they do need to take a step forward if they're going to become elite. Year over year, we just project growth as guys get better. I don't think this is like a top 20 offensive line, but I think it could be like top 40, top 30, and be enough with this skill position group. Not to mention LSU has more defensive concerns. They're turning over a lot. They did not get the jump they wanted from Blake Baker in year 1. They finished 64th, and now they're going to need another jump with a lot of change. On the edge, you're replacing the best group you had. They were 11th with Jack Pyburn, Jamari Butler, and Patrick Payton. This is some combination of guys that underachieved or didn't quite get the role they wanted in the previous program. Inside, you need an injured Jacobian Gulleroy to take a step alongside 5-star sophomore Dominic McKinley. I'm more excited there. Linebacker should be okay. Whit Weeks and Devon Keys. The biggest concern, honestly, is what they do with Harold Perkins. Unless he lines up as a true edge rusher, this guy's been picked apart so bad in coverage by so many teams. Like, that should just be the immediate draw for Garrett Riley. Find Harold Perkins, throw right into his coverage. And on the edge, he's a small player too. So as many flashes as he's had, he's sort of hard to use. And the secondary is all transfers. Mansour Delane, DeMarcus Cooley, AJ Halsey, Jakeem Jackson, all from good programs. But the big question with LSU is development. They have not developed their 4 and 5 stars in the Brian Kelly era. That's why you brought in Blake Baker. We need to see it at some point. And bringing in so many transfers doesn't have me very optimistic considering where they came from and what they did at their previous programs. The line has moved a little bit towards LSU of late, likely to play a Clemson side in this game. No reason to play the 3.5 with this sitting at a number that is outside the number 3, the key number. If you force me to play something on the total, it would be over with both of these offenses being elite. But defense being as good as they are gives me enough pause. We've got that total. Let's see where it comes in for us. Riveting Airways. We have this at 56.5, so not enough for me to take. FAU takes on Maryland. We're just going to talk about some like high-profile teams in each of these games, but there will be some G5 opponents, and that's what we get here. Maryland's a 14.5-point favorite. The over-under is 59. FAU is a brand new staff. They bring in Zach Kitley from Texas Tech. He's the air raid OC. He is Brett Dewhurst as the DC coming in from Coastal Carolina. All that solid. You're going to see a very different look FAU, passing a lot more, playing with pace. And with Maryland, you bring in Pep Hamilton as OC, sort of supposed to be the quarterback whisperer. And he's going to be working with some young, talented players that are inexperienced. But I expect their offense to be a little more pro style, a little more balanced. Last year, they were a 59% pass rate team, and I expect them to be slower. They were 30th in pace, so more of like an NFL style offense. But let's start with FAU going against this Maryland defense. Caden Veldkamp comes in from Western Kentucky. Obviously, the familiarity with Kitley, who previously was the coordinator there. He's ran this offense before. His biggest concerns are sacks. He took 21% of them, or he took 26, which was a 21% pressure to sack ratio. But good big time throw rate to turnover worthy plays. He's huge at 6'6", 235. He can run a little bit. I am not sure about his weapons. Honestly, the running room concerns me a little bit. They're very inexperienced. But when you look at wide receivers, they do have at least some players. Easton Messer follows him. Quincy Brown's a former four-star. Played down in the FCS last year, but originally with TCU. And then a couple other rotational guys. I think this unit will be able to move the ball against most opponents. The question is, can they do it against Maryland? Maryland's defense was pretty rough last year. They were 94th. Now they're losing 9 of their top 10 players. They didn't add a ton either. You're sort of relying on transfers or highly recruited freshmen. Like Zahir Mathis needs to play in the defensive line. He's a 4-star. Bryce Jenkins, a 4-star, needs to play right away. Otherwise, you're looking at transfers, underachievers like D.D. Holmes, Joel Starlings. That's your front 7. Linebacker, you're getting back Michael Harris and Daniel Wingate. They need to play in rotational roles. A lot of departures from that unit like Hypolite. And then a lot of transfers are going to fill out the secondary. Jamari Glasker, Dante Joyner. Unless they get something out of their 4-stars like Kevin Humes and Messiah DeHolm, which they haven't yet, this defense is weak, and it's something that you can take advantage of. So I think FAU moves the ball in this defense, especially this front 7 is atrocious for Maryland. As far as Maryland on offense, a lot of concerns across the board. They're going to be breaking in a new QB. It looks like they're going to use multiple. It's either 4-star Malik Washington or Justin Martin, the UCLA transfer. We'll see on that. They're both inexperienced. The skill position group likely takes a step back. You lose Roman Hemby. You lose Ty Felton, Caden Prather, both your tight ends. You have some flashes from the running backs, like Nolan was okay. I don't know there. And then Jaleel Farouk, transfer wide receiver, he's been hurt a lot. Caleb Webb never really got on the field with Tennessee. Those are your top 2. Unless like 4-star freshman Zymir Smith plays right away and Dorian Fleming can make the jump from Georgia State to Maryland at tight end, this group is worse. And then the offensive line, they were 133rd last year. They lost 6 of their top 8. And I'm not sure this is an addition by subtraction situation. They only brought in 2 transfers from Central Connecticut and Elon. We have this mathematically as the worst offensive line in the Big Ten by a wide margin. We will see. I don't know. Can FAU take advantage of this on defense? I think the answer is probably to some degree. They were 57th last year. They get back a couple of rotational defensive linemen like Wilkie Donati, formerly played at Auburn. 2 Rutgers transfers coming on the defensive line. Defensive tackle's a little worse to me, but you're going to be looking at Enos Sledge coming in, formerly of Auburn and Illinois. Like these players playing in the AAC, the American, I guess they're calling it now. I think they can have success against the worst Big Ten team. And then you look on the back end, a lot of pretty quality transfers, 9 defensive backs come in. You kind of just need to piece that together and stop enough of Maryland. And with that offensive line, I think you should be able to. Conversely, like FAU on offense, we already talked about it against this Maryland defense. I think they move the ball enough to keep this within 14.5 points. We also mentioned like Maryland's probably going to play slower, a little more grounded pound approach. Not sure that's the case with FAU and Veldkamp, but the total is not crazy in this game compared to what we've seen some like former Zach Kitley offenses going up against teams like Maryland 59. Honestly, you could look over there if you wanted, but we're playing the FAU plus the 14.5. That hook is key, but we have these teams power rated a lot closer than that number. Utah, UCLA, battle out west. We've seen a ton of line movement in this game. All the money's coming in on Utah. They're a 6-point favorite. The total is 51.5. Kyle Whittingham, first losing season since 2013. So he changes offensive coordinators, brings in Jason Beck. He brings his QB. It was a dynamic offense down in the Mountain West. UCLA, you go from Eric Bieniemy to Tino Sunseri. That should be a massive upgrade. Sunseri was the co-OC at Indiana last year. So offenses are going to look a little different. Utah, instead of passing 49% of the time, should be back to embracing the run. They're going to use a lot of tempo. Their pass rate is going to be lower. New Mexico was very fast last year. And UCLA should be a lot more balanced. They had a huge pass rate, throwing a lot of dink and dunk stuff. I expect UCLA to also use more tempo, but be balanced, kind of like what Indiana did last year. So Utah, changing offenses, you bring in Devin Dampier. His biggest concern, first of all, size. He's 200 pounds and he's 5'10". And second, now he's playing in a much better conference. And in this game, he's playing a Big Ten opponent. But he only took 4 sacks, a pressure to sack ratio of 4.1%. He was the QB 6 in the country last year. Only 10 turnover-worthy plays, 20 big-time throws. Really underrated with his arm. And then he averaged 7.5 yards per carry, over 1,600 rushing yards on the ground. His weapons are awesome. They upgrade running back with Wayshawn Parker and Nakari Rogers. Receivers, while it's not the strength of the team, should be upgraded. Creed Whitmore from Mississippi State, Tobias Merriweather, our former 4-stars. Ryan Davis was with Dampier last year at New Mexico. Larry Simmons comes in from Southern Miss. He has some production. You even have Hunter Andrews at tight end. Now, he's probably not Keithy, but he's a decent player. I expect this team to have a good offense. And UCLA's defense was 88th last year. They lost their entire back 7, 2 on the defensive line. Carson Schlesinger. I mean, this defense is completely brand new, and I'm not buying the edge group. Busick and Ipui were brutal last year on the edge. Their transfers are not anyone with experience. They do have a couple rotational defensive tackles, a couple linebackers who have underachieved. That's a position of a lot of turnover. Isaiah Chisholm, the transfer, was average in the Mountain West. And then 10 transfer DBs. Some of them are pretty good, and they at least have recruiting pedigree, like Roderick Pleasant from Oregon, Ben Perry from Louisville, Key Lawrence from Ole Miss. There is quality talent here, but I'm not sure this unit is significantly better than 88th overall. And then their main questions are up front. How are you going to stop this Utah run game? Your secondary is the best part of your defense. So that's my biggest concern with UCLA. Conversely, they're upgraded on offense. First of all, you just lose Eric Bieniemy, the complete cancer he is on offense. That it's a complete disaster everywhere. Everything he touches outside of Andy Reid's system has been just a complete mess. So now he goes to being a position coach. And Sunseri is sort of this up-and-comer with Indiana. QB is better. You go from Garbers to Iamaleava, the 5-star. And regardless of what you think of him, he is better than Garbers. He needs to cut down on the sacks. He had a 25% pressure to sack ratio, took 30 of them. It brought his yards per carry down to 3.3. His turnover-worthy plays were only 11. The biggest issues outside of sacks are accuracy, but he's an upgrade. That is what it is. The backfield, they lose TJ Harden. Javian Thomas comes in from Cal at best. This is kind of like a lateral move, but they have a 4-star freshman, so maybe the run game's not too bad. The receiving room, they're expecting a step forward from 4-star Quasi Gilmore as a sophomore. They also have Rico Flores back from injury. He's probably not going to be ready for this game. Transfers are okay with Mikey Matthews, former 4-star. Jaden Wilson, he's all right. And tight end, you have to find a way to replace Maliki Matavau, but I think Pedersen and Hudson Habermel, who were hurt, can probably do that. It's an underrated offense, honestly. I think UCLA will have some success moving the ball, and they're going to play with more tempo here, with more balanced offense. Utah playing with more tempo too. I think the over is in play here. But first of all, Utah's defense, 49th last year. They lose 6 starters. I think the defensive line's okay. It's not as good as people think. People want to just anoint this defensive line good every single year. Logan Fano was average. Aleki Vamahi, Dallas Vakalahi return. They're okay on the inside. They're going to be decent. I don't think they're going to be great. Linebackers should be better. Lander Barton and Levani Demouni are awesome. And the secondary is very good too with Tal Johnson and Smith Snowden. They're sort of rounding out that final corner spot. It looks like Blake Cotton's going to win at the UC Davis transfer. I don't love that. That's very scary. But overall, I think this defense is 2 difference makers, 2 average players, and 1 liability in the secondary. I think they'll be a little bit worse on defense, maybe around the same. So all this to say, New Mexico's playing with pace. UCLA's playing with pace. Love the upgrades and the matchups for New Mexico against that weak UCLA run defense. I think UCLA can score on this Utah defense. We're playing over in this game with pace and the offensive advantages on both sides. 51.5 is still widely available, and it's a number that we make north of that. Northwestern Tulane. Weird road trip in non-con for Northwestern here. Tulane is a 5.5-point favorite. Money is poured in on Northwestern. Total is 46. I actually like Northwestern a lot this year, but a lot needs to come together. For a team that has continuity in the coaching staff with David Braun and his OC, Zach Lujan, there's still going to be some change. Like last year, they had to pass the ball largely because of game script and personnel limitations. Lujan typically wants to run like this motion RPO offense with 12 personnel, what he did at South Dakota State. They couldn't really do it. They did hang close in important games. They should have beat Duke and Illinois last year. So I think this team, not quite as far away as some other people think. Tulane has their entire staff back, Summerall and his coordinators. That should be fine. So the only major systemic changes probably on the Northwestern side, still playing slow, but being a little run heavier with some 12 personnel. They upgrade quarterback with Preston Stone. He's the best QB to play here since, I don't know, maybe Clayton Thorson, if you could argue he's better than that. He's been dynamic with SMU outside of some turnover-worthy plays, but he still has 38 big-time throws to 17 turnover-worthy plays. He can run. Pressure-to-sack ratio is only 13%. He's awesome. I'm not really buying his skill position players. They do a veteran Cam quarterback joined by some change of pace guys. Their receiver room's brand new, but people seem to be hyping up the South Dakota State transfer, Griffin Wilde, joined by Chase Farrell from Stanford. The wide receiver group is pretty weak. I don't think they have good tight ends. Alex Lyons, you probably can't play a lot of 12 unless there's something that I'm not recognizing here. And then the O-line, they were 128th in pass blocking, 80th in run blocking. They lose 3 starters, but Caleb Tiernan is awesome. It's just what are they doing outside of him? They do get back Jack Bailey from injury. They have some transfers that are interesting. Biernston comes in from South Dakota State. Shout out Appleton North, went to my high school. Xavier Gray was solid at Jacksonville State, and then some higher level players, Lewis and Chandler, are taking a step down to Northwestern for some potential to start. It's not an ideal offensive line, but I think they're going to be a little bit better. And then you look at Tulane. They lost 2 starters on the defensive line, 1 linebacker, 3 in the secondary. Their edges, I think, are pretty good. Anto Saka is a former 4-star. Aiden Hubbard. I mean, these guys combined for over 1,000 snaps. Excuse me, that's Northwestern. Got ahead of myself. Tulane, they lost their entire defensive line, one linebacker, and most of their secondary. So you're looking at transfers on the defensive line, low-level guys, App State, UTEP, South Alabama. I think they'll be worse there. Interior, you bring in Trevon McAlpine from Texas Tech. He's solid. But the rest is G5 transfers from lower competition. The secondary is the biggest concern here. Your transfers are like LJ Green from Troy, Isaiah Wadsworth from Wofford, Casey Ezumume from Albany. You're going to be able to throw on Tulane, I think, a decent amount. I'm not sure if Northwestern is equipped to do this, especially with the offense they want to run. I still think they will have some success here. So people are fading Tulane. The big thing here is you change QBs. I actually think Jake Retzlaff coming in is an upgrade compared to what they were going to try out there with like Simonza and stuff. Retzlaff's not a huge difference maker to me. He ran really hot on the turnovers last year. He had 12 big-time throws to 18 turnover-worthy plays. He can run a little bit, and his pressure-to-sack ratio is very low. Should be noted his receivers also dropped 24 passes. That was one of the highest rates in the country, 10%. He's still an upgrade compared to what you had in the spring. I'm not sure he's quite the same as what they had last year, but he's all right. I don't think your skill position players are very good, especially, turning to running back, looking at some combination of Maurice Turner and Zuberi Mosley from Louisville and FAU. Turner probably going to lead this backfield. Receiving room, you're turning over basically everything from last year, so you need 4-star Shaz Preston to play. Your transfers are low level, like Jimmy Callaway from Louisville and Omari Hayes from FAU lead the group. Tight end, you're looking at your converted QB, Ty Thompson. So I don't know. I think they'll be okay. And it's kind of the story with both Northwestern and Tulane here. Offensive line, they lost 4 of their top 6. They do get back 2 tackles in Derek Graham and Shadre Hurst. Their transfers are okay with Jack Holofield and Jordan Hall. They're going to have to play immediately. They have some deep transfers like Hodnett from TCU that are going to have to step in and play too. And again, getting to Northwestern, they were 43rd in defense. The players they returned on the edge are pretty solid. They have over 1,000 snaps back. Saka is a former 4-star. Defensive tackle, you get back Bastone from injury. Linebacker, your leading tackler. Uline is back. They bring in Karlaftis and Sadowski. Front 7 should be better. Bruss is also a candidate to play more. Secondary, you get back Adeye from injury at corner. I think the defense is pretty decent here. Overall, we have a lot of similarities between these teams, and we have them power rated getting close to even here. Difference is home field. And if you look at the real advantages, we still have Tulane with a pretty significant advantage on the defensive line compared to what Northwestern has. A little better on the offensive line as well. The main advantage we have from Northwestern is their QB going Preston Stone versus Jake Retzlaff, but it's not enough for me to bet. This is a very volatile game. We have this very close in terms of spread, right around 6, which is not a number I like. We also make the total almost right at 46 too. So this is going to be one that we pass on for now. Mississippi State versus Southern Miss. Very challenging game to evaluate. Mississippi State's a 13-point favorite. The over-under is 61. Levy's back. He calls the plays as well. Southern Miss, you have a complete coaching change. Charles Hoff comes in from Marshall. He brings Blake Anderson from Utah State as OC. Jason Seymour from Marshall is going to coordinate the defense. A lot of respect for what Charles Hoff did at Marshall. And you look at the offenses under Blake Anderson with Utah State. They had pass rates of 50% and 43%, but they were very fast. So the changes in the offense, expecting them to play faster than the 46th pace last year. Pass rate, I would expect somewhere in the same range, 46%, kind of depends on their quarterback situation. But Mississippi State, while they are projected to be the worst team in the SEC, they are not projected to be quite as bad. The gap has narrowed. Blake Shapen is back as QB. The main holes you're poking in him, all that good production he had last year came against Eastern Kentucky, Arizona State, Toledo, and Florida. He previously started with Baylor, so I mean, there's still questions with him. Overall, I think he's a decent quarterback. He's not someone that's a real difference maker in my eyes. His receiver room is completely new. You bring in Brennan Thompson from Oklahoma, Aiden Williams, Ole Miss, Anthony Evans, Georgia, a couple other players. You also have Jordan Mosley back. The big problem is you lose Mario Craver, who went to Texas A&M. Tight end's going to be Seydou Traore. I think at best you're treading water here, maybe a little better. Run game should be improved with both Daniels and Booth back. Plus you add a 4-star sophomore, Xavier Gatton, and South Alabama transfer, Fluff Bothwell. So I am kind of buying the skill position players. Their offensive line is going to be a lot of transfers. The only main returners are Albert Reese and Jacoby Jackson. They were a little below average. All your transfers are pretty good. Blake Steen from Virginia, Kobe Keenum, Kentucky, Zach Owens, Colorado. I do think they're going to be better on the offensive line. You turn to Southern Miss, their whole team is just transfers. It's not even worth looking at last year. But overall, the defense does have quite a bit of talent, especially in the secondary. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to stop Mississippi State, especially on the ground. Biggest concerns are up front. But overall, the talent is pretty solid. Like Jamon Tapp from Arizona State, Isaiah Gibson, Marshall. I won't go through everybody, but this is not your low-level style transfer remade team. Even on the back end, like Josh Moten comes over from Marshall. He was originally with Michigan. A lot of the transfers do come from Marshall following their head coach, and a lot of them were starters. This is a huge gap in competition, but this Marshall team was pretty solid last year. As far as the Southern Miss offense goes, Braylon Braxton's taking over QB duties. He was awesome last year. Quarterback 32 overall in the country, 60% completion percentage, 12 big-time throws, 8 turnover-worthy plays. He can run 4.6 yards per carry, only took 9 sacks. His skill position players are also pretty good. You have like power 4 transfers, Jeffrey Pitton and Matt Jones in the running back room, plus Robert Briggs. You bring in basically the entire Marshall wide receiver room. Some of them are pretty good recruits. Like Tyshon Chapman is a former 4-star. You have like the 3 of the top 4 receivers from Marshall are here, plus a few highly recruited players like Braylon Brown as well from Ole Miss. Your offensive line, again, not worth looking at last year. They only return a couple players like Greg Nunnery was below average, some rotational guys, but they have 10 transfers. Aaron Parks is from South Carolina, good recruit. Broderick Roman, starter at Eastern Michigan. Jez Janver, Eastern Michigan. Cooper Frazier comes in from Samford. This is the biggest concern on the team. I do not know if they can hold up against Mississippi State's defense, which is upgraded for sure on the defensive line. This is how Southern Miss gets blown out of this game. You have 4-star Brandon Jennings back, transfers. from Northern Illinois, Rasheem Thomas, Nevaeh Thomas, Malik Silla from Texas A&M, Red Hibbler from NC State. The defensive line is much better. If Southern Miss loses this game by more than the total, I think this is how it happens. Defensive tackles are awesome. Your back end is probably your biggest concern, but you return Isaac Smith and Kelly Jones. You have a 4-star freshman in Kyle Johnson. A lot of transfers coming in the back end too. Like Jerron Manning from Old Dominion's a solid player. I don't know if Braylon Braxton in the wide receiver room is capable of exploiting this. Braxton's been a good passer, but not a huge difference maker. So this is the biggest concern I have for Southern Miss. Right away, I think this is a game you could look to Southern Miss. I'm not going to approach this unless it gets to plus 14. The talent gap is just too wide here. But ultimately, we do make this with a little bit of value on Southern Miss side. I don't think people are properly evaluating the talent they brought in. You can look at last year's metrics, which you absolutely should not. The team changed everything, and they're one of these teams like Colorado a few years ago. Everything is different. And these teams, a lot of times, especially because there's some continuity with all the Marshall players coming in, they can outperform expectations right away. Don't think this is live for a money line upset or anything, but I am interested in Southern Miss. Toledo versus Kentucky, MAC versus SEC. We're betting Kentucky in this game. The talent gap is just too wide in this contest. Jason Candle's back with his entire staff. This team, they did have some good wins. Like this team beat Mississippi State last year, but they also lost to some horrific teams like Western Kentucky, Buffalo, Bowling Green, Akron, which Candles want to do. He typically loses one of those games every year. Stoops is back. All of his coordinators are back. I would say that was a positive, but Bush Hamden ran the offense into the ground. But still, we're talking level of competition stuff here. Can Toledo move the ball? Tucker Gleason is back. He has a lot of positives to his game. Passing is not his strength. 12 big-time throws, 17 turnover-worthy plays. He gets by, but he's a huge quarterback, 6'3", 245, only took 16 sacks. He's just sort of a limited player. He was the QB 74 last year. The run game should be upgraded. This was a weakness after Colin Wallensack had to lead the backfield. So they get Chip Trayanum from Kentucky. He battled injury, but he's formerly with Arizona State and Ohio State. He should be fine. You do return Junior Vander Ross, had 957 yards. Trayvon Rudolph replaces Jerwan Newton. So your receiving core is okay. Outside of your top two, I'm a little concerned. They don't really have anything else. But then going against Kentucky's defense, can they actually move the ball and score here? I don't know. Kentucky, first of all, the Toledo offensive line was brutal last year. 122nd in pass blocking. They have two starters back. But honestly, because of injury, 5 have experience. The only difference maker is guard Ethan Spoth. He's the only one who projected even average. So I don't think, even though they probably take a slight step forward because the injuries allowed 5 guys to get some experience, this unit needs to, getting to 100th would be a significant step forward for this offensive line. The transfers you bring in, they're all below average. Like your leaders, Terrence Moore from Pitt, he couldn't play there. Dominic Rivera and Jonathan Harder didn't play at their programs either. I think the unit is a little better, but bad. So you get to Kentucky's defense. This unit didn't inspire confidence last year, and they're losing a lot from their front 4, I suppose. The edge group, you're looking at a lot of younger 4-stars. They have 3 of them, but Marquise Humphrey, Grace Camo, Sam Green, there's transfers to fill the gaps. You also have 3 younger 4-stars at defensive tackle, so 6 total 4-stars on the defensive line. Can David Gusta from Washington State fill that out for the time being? I think yes, against this team. It's just such a gap in talent. Linebacker will be okay. 4-star Grant Godfrey and Davern Rayner just need to step up. We've seen them play well at times, especially Rayner. He's played more than his 82 snaps last year. And then the secondary is good. Jonquise Hardaway's back. Hopefully Afari and Nichols can play a little better, but their secondary is 10 4-stars on the 2 deep. Like Kentucky's been recruiting better than people think. Just please put together some of this talent, and you should wipe the floor with Toledo in this matchup. Then conversely, like Zach Calzada comes in from Incarnate Word. He's already played in the SEC, and he honestly was not a complete liability there. He improved in the FCS. I don't know if it's going to be enough here, but I think Calzada can move the ball. Your weapons are okay. I like McGowan at running back from New Mexico State. He's the former 4-star who just got in some trouble and had to go down there to JUCO and then back up. Wide receiver is the biggest concern. They couldn't keep Dane Key or Barry and Brown, but Macklin's here. you're kind of just betting on any of the failure transfers like Troy Stellato from Clemson, Kendrick Law from Bama, Ashton Kozar from SMU, J.J. Hester from Oklahoma. They're all good recruits. They all failed at their programs and couldn't play. Can any of them step up in this offense? If you look at the offensive line, this unit was atrocious. They do have a couple players back, Yeager, Burton, and Malachi Wood, but going to rely on transfers. They have 6 of them. Shias Pete from New Mexico, Josh Braun from Arkansas, Evan Wibberly from Western Kentucky, Alex Wolschlager from Bowling Green to the top. I still think the offensive line might be improved after they were 113th in pass blocking last year. And then you look at the defense for Toledo. They're losing 8 of their top 12. Their edge group is okay. I sort of like their transfers with Dunn coming in from Michigan State, Chamberlain from Ole Miss. It's a quality group there. Inside, I'm not buying quite as much. Linebacker, I'm certainly not buying. Their top guy is 96 snaps back. That's a huge concern. Linebacker could be an issue. Overall, I still think the front 7 is pretty weak. In the back end, Emmanuel Warren comes back. You have Avery Smith, Nasir Bowers, Brandon Alls were all pretty good. Good transfers like Amari Snowden from Wisconsin. I just am not really sure that you're going to be trying to throw into this Toledo secondary if you're Kentucky. Do you even need to? You look at the gap between – just look at the offensive line versus Toledo's defensive line mismatch, especially with Chip Trayanum coming in. I think Kentucky just straight up runs the ball down their throat. And then with enough limitations Toledo has, I'm kind of buying this Kentucky defensive line. The only thing that needs to come together is some of the young players step out of their comfort zone and take a step forward. We make this closer to Kentucky minus 13, happily playing this against the spread here against a MAC team. Old Dominion, Indiana, 23.5 point spread, 54.5 total. Very much looking at the Indiana side. Both teams retain their staffs. Ricky Ronnie's back with his coordinators. Signetti's back with his coordinators outside of Koosi, Sinceri. Expecting both offenses to look the same. Colton Joseph was a revelation for Old Dominion at QB last year. Not the best passer, but still 6 big-time throws, 2 turnover-worthy plays, 60% completion. Made his bones on the ground with 5.7 yards per carry. Sack was a little high, 18 of them, 19.5 pressure to sack ratio. He was the QB 83. You limit some of these negative plays, and you could be looking at a much better efficiency profile. My question is, you have, amazing coaching at Indiana. The offense for Old Dominion was basically have Colton Joseph run wild. You're losing basically all your running backs. Devin Roche is back. Ketravian Hargrove comes in from Grambling State. He's a former 4-star originally with Mississippi State. Your top 4 wide receivers are gone. Your top tight end is gone. They didn't do anything really to replace them. So your skill position group is significantly worse. Your offensive line lost 3 starting players, but they were 132nd in pass blocking last year. This group is really bad. Only Zach Barlev was an even average player on the offensive line. You have 3 returners that are atrocious. Your transfers are Ryan Joyce from Fordham and Griffin Dugan from Virginia Tech. It's probably going to be a bad unit. Again, can Joseph overcome it a second time? Like, this guy's at risk to get hurt running for his life. I don't know. Then you look at the defense on the other side, Indiana. They're losing a lot. 7 starters, some good ones too, but I mean, they still have studs everywhere. Mikael Kamara's back on the edge. Good transfers. Tyrese Tucker's back on the inside. Good transfers there. Linebacker, Aiden Fisher's back. He led the team in tackles. Back end, D'Angelo Pons is an All-American candidate. Amari Farrell is back. Your transfers are good here. Lewis Moore got cleared from Ole Miss. I mean, this unit is so good on offense. And the pressure that they're going to generate against this offensive line might just rattle Colton Joseph. Then on the other side, Fernando Mendoza, he comes in, replaces Rourke. Had a decent season last year. Biggest problem, sacks and turnovers. The O-line was horrible at Cal, so I think there's a chance this gets a lot better for him. He was the QB 46, and overall he has 27 big-time throws in his career to 32 turnover-worthy plays. I think coaching will help with that. We saw Rourke maximize last year on a torn ACL, which is just wild. He also was good skill position players, better than Cal for sure. Your backfield maybe doesn't have Jaden Ott, but he was hurt last year anyway. And I still think Roman Hemby, the transfer from Maryland is going to be complemented by Kalen Black and Lee Beebe. This is a good group of transfer running backs. They lose 7 of their top 9 receivers, but they return their top 2, Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper. Great place to start. EJ Williams back from injury. 2 transfer tight ends. Don't think they take a huge step back as skill position players. Offensive line was good too. 3 starters are back. Carter Smith is a stud. Bray Lynch and Drew Evans are solid. Your transfers are Pat Coogan from Notre Dame, Khalil Benson from Colorado, who's already played here, Zed Mikowski from Ohio State. It's a good offensive line. Old Dominion on defense was 80th last year. They lose 2 on their defensive line, 5 in the secondary. In that secondary, you look at the players they had. They're all playing with different programs. Not much on the defensive line outside of Chris Trinidad. Linebacker does get back stud Jason Henderson. That's the biggest addition they'll make, and it's just because he's coming back from injury. Linebacker is good for this team, but I mean, they're losing so much in the secondary. The players you bring in, Batros Alessandro from Purdue, otherwise Mario Easterly is your most experienced. The defense, I think, could be worse than 80th last year. You're going to be extremely reliant on Jason Henderson cleaning up tackles, and in this game, Indiana's offense just has too much firepower. I haven't taken this because you've seen a little buyback on the Old Dominion side, but we currently make this line well outside the 23, up closer to 27. So we're going to be taking this, just sit and wait, see what we can get, and try to take the best number when it comes available. But I think that that's the last game for us today. 10 up, 10 down. Let's see how we did on time. Just under an hour. That was the goal. Try to do 10 minutes per game. Excuse the mix-up with the Northwestern and the Tulane. Just mislabeled my categories. But I appreciate you all. We'll probably do a greasy episode of this. If there's a team you want to see or a game you want to see for the greasy episode, talking Conference USA, MAC, Sun Belt, G5 in general, let me know. I'll try to get to it. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Videos for Thursday and Friday are out if you're watching this ahead of time. We'll be back covering college football all weekend. Get Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all of it. Until then, good luck, everyone. We will see you later.